Hello all and welcome back to my channel, Rover Turbo. In this video we're going to be doing some work on this Astra K. It's a 2016 Astra K, but it's also the same on the Astra J's with the same engine. It's the same basic principle. So this is the 1.6 CDTi. I've done a lot of videos on this engine on my channel. I've also done a video on this on my channel, but not an in-depth. I'll put a link up here. Basically, it's the error code P0401, which is an insufficient EGR flow. Now, the insufficient EGR flow on this particular engine is the EGR cooler. Now, as I say, I've done a video on this of how I cleaned, a short video I think, on how I cleaned the cooler and how I actually, but I didn't video how I removed the cooler and obviously, you know, swapping it over. It's not a 5-minute job. Once you know what you're doing, it's relatively easy, and it does involve dropping some coolant, which is a bit of a pain. So, this is a how-to in-depth video on how to remove and replace the cooler. I've also put bits in this video also of actually how I cleaned the cooler rather than replacing it, which are like 150, 200 pounds plus for a replacement cooler. I had a spare cooler and I have just swapped it over. This is the third time I've done it on this engine. So obviously there's something not right. The engine runs perfect. My wife had an Astra J before this with 180,000 miles. I never cleaned the cooler. This has got 130,000 miles and I've cleaned it like 3 times. So let's go and have a close look at the engine and the cooler, and then we'll get into it. Right, so this is the engine. It's a B16 DTH, DTE, DTL, depending on what model you've got or power rating. So basically this is the EGR cooler unit here. This is the actual EGR valve, and the cooler is just down here. Now on the Astra K, it doesn't have the battery because the battery's in the boot. So you don't have to, I don't believe you have to move this. If you do, you can just unclip it and but we'll see when we get there if I need to remove it. But I think you might just better fold it out of the way. On the Astra J, where the battery is there, you have to remove the battery and possibly the battery tray. So I'm just going to go through exactly what you need to remove. This is the EGR cooler unit, basically bolted up together. This is the actual EGR cooler, and then you've got your 2 end tanks, which are just fixed in with some bolts. There's a metal gasket which goes here and here. I just put a thin bead of a smear of silicone on both sides of the gasket before I put it back together. So this is now completely clean, blasted through with high pressure water, cleaned, etc. So there's a coolant jacket which goes through here, that goes a little spigot into the side of the engine. There's a pipe on the back, there's a pipe on the front. Right, so I don't think there's anything particularly complicated about it. It's all just 10mm bolts, 13mm bolts, hose clips. The engine cover. We'll put something underneath to catch the coolant. So we've also got these special pliers for these hose clips and stuff. You don't need these, but standard power pliers will do, but these are so handy, and a trim clip. So literally I'm just going to start with a little clip here for the boost pipe. We just need to pull it out like that, and that will basically come off. And this boost pipe is a clip that's held onto the lower rad hose. You just need to, there's a little plastic clip, and you just need to pop it off. Clip here, takes that off. You've got a connector here in the top. Just release this just in case there's any pressure in it. Shouldn't be. So you push these 2 things in and just tease it up. Be careful not to break it. A bit of WD-40 helps lubricate the O-ring. There you go. Tuck that up over there. Take this wire off. Clip, 10mm bolts. Attaching this bracket to the top of the cooler.
Right, now this throttle body needs to come off. There's a multi-plug on there, and there's a little red tab. Pull it out, push the tab in, it pulls off. And this is the EGR, this allows you to get to the EGR cooler. Again, there's a plug on there with a little a yellow tab. Pull it out, push the tab in, and that pulls that connector off of the EGR valve. You can now get a 10mm, it's two diagonal 10mm, one at the top, one opposite at the bottom. Right, so there's two 10mm bolts. There's also a 10mm bracket, a 10mm bolt just down here, which there's a bracket which goes onto the side of it, which actually locates into the cooler, into the EGR valve. And then we just need to try and get the EGR, let's try and get this pipe out of the way. This clip here, this plastic clip that goes around the coolant pipe, you need to take that off. And then down here, just on top of that boost pipe in the middle there, there's a little metal clip that goes round. Where am I? Can you see my thumb? There. See that? And then the other side, there's a little metal. You just need to pull that clip apart. I'll just pull it off from the bottom. And then you can pull this boost pipe off. So I'll just do that. Right, so that's just popped off the bottom. You can see this clip here, which goes round the coolant pipe, and that goes into here. And then you've got this clip at the bottom that you just have to pull off. Now what you can do with these, when you put this back on, put it in properly, like that. That's how it's supposed to be. You can put it on like that. Make sure this O-ring in here is well lubricated with silicone grease as much as you possibly can, and that will just pop on, and then these clips will splay out and then come back, and this will grip on, and this won't come off as long as it's clipped on properly. And then it's the same this end. So we got this metal bracket here that I took off, bolted onto the side here, and then these can be a bit of a pain to get out. Maybe spray a bit of lube in the join. There you go. And that's the EGR valve. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'll give it a quick clean off, but we'll leave it as it is. Put the bolts back in so we know where they go. You can just try and put the bolts back into where they came out. Right, we're also going to take this bolt off here, or nut I should say, holds this pipe, because this, we need to bend this out of the way. I seem to remember having to get quite a bit with this before. Alright, got some more clips on here. One there. One there. Right, we've got a pipe. Coolant pipe down here. This is gonna remove quite a bit of coolant. I'm planning on reusing the coolant and putting it back on because there's nothing wrong with it. Now coolant pipes, a bit of a dark art. Sometimes you can twist them, sometimes you can pull them off. What I find is to buy a set of these picks, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, straight, angled. And what you can do is you can hook this underneath the pipe, into the pipe, and then slide it round the pipe. If that makes sense. Peel the edge of the pipe up carefully, slide it up underneath the pipe, and then sort of roll it around to break the seal between the rubber pipe. This one actually, it's come off quite easily. You also need to take out these two bolts on the front here. It's got a metal gasket on here. You can leave that on there or take it off, it's up to you. So we've got this bypass pipe which goes from the inlet manifold down into the back of the EGR cooler. So there's two bolts here, follow the pipe back, and then there's two bolts at the back where it bolts into the back of the EGR cooler. That needs to come off. I'm still trying to do this rear pipe. These two bolts are easy, this back one's easy, this back one here, which you can just see with a socket on it, isn't. So what I've done is I've undone the bolts here, and there's a bolt that goes, this bracket here bolts into the back of here. This allows this pipe here, it's only a vacuum pipe, to have a little bit of flexibility, which means that you can pull it across and get the socket in there. I've loosened it, so literally it's just a matter of just winding that bolt out now. So this one's a bit of a pain in the bum. And that goes inside the top, so you can't just leave it in place and slide it away. Right, so we've got this link pipe here which goes from the EGR cooler down to a pipe under here. Don't take it off at the top one, take it off at the bottom one. It's easier to take off the bottom, just trust me on that. And then there's some clips, wires and stuff which attach onto various metal brackets and stuff down here. You've got an electrical connection here and an electrical connection here, so they've all got to be taken off, disconnected, moved out of the way. You've got these little security tabs on them, so you have to pull them back first before you can unplug them. On the side of this cooler there's a plastic housing, a plastic sort of carrier. The back here we've got some 10mm bolts which hold this bracket that supports the cooler to the inlet manifold, the end of the inlet manifold. So those bolts can all just come out. So there's 5 bolts. There's one underneath a bracket you have to take off first, which attaches the wiring loom to it. This bracket here, it attaches to the inlet manifold up here, and then it supports to the EGR cooler down below. Yeah, just to give you a better idea of what I've just done, that bracket I just took off bolts into that, those 2 bolts, those 2 goldy coloured bolts, and then it goes down to the back of the cooler down there into those 2, and then you've got this bracket down here that's attached to the main wiring loom, which also hooks into it as well. This pipe that goes into this actuator for the EGR bypass, that just comes off of there, and then we can unbolt this electrical connector, which I believe are torque something, 25s probably, and then you've got at the bottom there you've got looks like a 10 here, and then this can stay with the car and this can stay with the car, and this bracket can come off with it. Oh my god. They're T30s. And that's still connected to vacuum hoses, so they can just stay, that can just stay there. 10mm bolt on this. And I believe we can leave the plastic thing on there. So this is basically, so you've got 2 13mm bolts there underneath there, and then you've got one which goes in through here underneath, and that's it, that's all that holds it on. These 2 are quite easy to get at. Oh, I missed the bracket. Right, I missed a 10mm bolt down there for a bracket. It's like a big metal bracket which attaches to all of the pipes and stuff, and that gets in the way of the bolt. It's 2 fairly long 13mm bolts, and then the rear one is a bit of a pain because you can't see it. It's easy once you know where it is. Right, yeah, okay, we're loose. Can you see that? Yeah. Oh, there's one more pipe at the back. Forgot about that. Small hook tool. Just at the back, you can see there's a little sort of silver clip. So you literally just put the hook in there, pull the hook up. You don't have to pull it out, just pull it up, and it should just pull off. Just pulled it up. Yeah. I love cars. There we go. So that's basically it off. And basically this upper cover here is where the tensioner sits. So once you take this off, you can remove this upper cover, which is siliconed on. And if you have a rattly chain, if it's just rattling on cold, change the tensioner before it gets too late. Right, what we also need to make sure we take out, depending on where it ends up, is at the back here, that spigot, the black spigot. So now what we need to do is to transfer over this plastic housing onto here. It's just these two little Torx bolt bracket on the back of here. So that needs to come over to here. Bolts, obviously, I put back in the locations. Any brackets that are on the old one, over to the new one. And that little bypass hose that was stuck in there, because obviously I didn't want to damage the O-ring around the outside, so I put that on the inside, hooked on the back of it and pulled it out, but unfortunately it went pinging down there somewhere. So I've got to lift it up, get underneath and hope I can find it, because if not, I'm buggered. I found the spigot. It just goes in here. I find it's easiest to put it in there, make sure it's in nice and straight. And there's a rubber seal around the edge. Just make sure that's well lubricated. Also helps to lubricate these as well when you're clipping the pipes on and stuff. So it's all ready. I've lubed up all of my bits and pieces, so literally just put it back in, put the bolts back in, and it's the reverse, obviously, of the removal. Right, that's everything back together. Put some coolant in it to top it up. Didn't lose that much, probably a litre. Obviously I've got to run it, but I didn't put that, I managed to catch some of it and I'll put that back in. So yeah, that's all basically back together. So I'm going to start it up, check it for codes, that kind of thing. What I'll do at the end of the video, I'll put in how I cleaned it. If people want to watch that, they can obviously watch it at the end of the video. So what I used, how I did it to get the old one clean. Also, down in the comments, if people could put, if they've got any suggestions as to what would be causing it to block up so quickly. I mean, I probably, well, not me, but the wife's probably done 6,000 miles, maybe a little bit more, and it's blocked again. The code did clear, and it would clear for a few days or a week or so, and then it would come back on again. So I did read a comment in one of my last videos about someone who bypassed the breather system. I'm not absolutely sure what he means, but he bypassed this into a catch can, so the oil vapour didn't go back into the system and cause oil vapour sticking to the soot, and that's what's causing the... but I don't understand what's different about these engines as regards to the Astra J, because they're exactly the same engine, they just have slightly different, obviously map, I think, and DPF. They don't have this sensor here. So if anyone's got any suggestions, that would be great. So there you go, that's how to change and clean a EGR cooler on an Astra J/K. Hope you enjoyed the video. Put a like, thumbs up, comment, it all helps. Thanks very much. Cheers. So this is the EGR cooler unit here. So I'm going to take this apart. I'm going to take the two end pieces off to get to the core in the middle. And basically it's just a load of these bolts all the way around, which is an E8. And then there's some around this side. So I'm going to whiz those out and then we'll get to the core in the middle. Right, so that's it apart, basically with the core in the middle. And you've got your two end pieces. There is a gasket, a metal gasket here. I've had this apart before because this has already been cleaned once before. So I'm kind of rotating until I can find a better solution to how I can stop this blocking up every 5,000 miles, which is not right, is it? Otherwise the car's perfectly fine. I've used silicone on these gaskets, both sides, so these metal gaskets. So these are stuck actually on the end pieces. So I'm going to clean this out. You can, there's no daylight through there. It's not, it doesn't look too bad, but it's completely blocked again. So what we'll do is I've got a pot
that sort of comes up to about here. So the best stuff for this is neat TFR. Basically, you just need to sort of put it in neat TFR, let it soak for 24-48 hours and just keep rotating it, keep blasting it out with air, water, and just keep doing it till it's clean. So we're going to go through the process. I'll just show you little bits and pieces as I do that. So I've had this cooler sitting in this pot of neat TFR, and I've been turning it round sort of once or twice a day. So this has been in here for about 2 days. As you can see, this is black. And then I've just got the jet wash, and I've literally just been jet washing out all of the black crap just to be sure. As I'm going to discard of this, and then I'm going to do it again with some fresh, and then leave it in there for another couple of days, turning it round, and then jet wash it out again.